Thank you very much indeed, Martin. Good morning, members. Welcome, councillors, to this meeting of council taking place with councillors and officers and our public speakers attending remotely as well as in the chamber. This is a public meeting streamed live to YouTube via the council's website. The meeting is also being recorded for the purposes of the minutes. I have been advised that the live stream is now up and running. If for any reason at any stage the public can no longer hear or see the meeting over the live stream, we will adjourn until the connection has been re-established. Can I remind members, please, of the meeting etiquette and the procedures that apply for remote attendees? All members should have their microphones muted, cameras turned on, and captions enabled. If you wish to speak on an item, please indicate this by using the chat function or raising your hand. I will then call on you at the appropriate point. I will ask the facilitators to advise me if there are any members who wish to speak that I have not spotted. There will be captioning throughout the meeting, and you may notice that your wish to speak has been captured as it scrolls at the bottom of the screen. This way you can lower your hand, rest assured that you will be called upon. For members in the chamber, please ensure that you turn your microphones on to speak to ensure that you can be heard. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak in the usual manner. Can I remind members to adhere to the council's procedure rules when speaking? We will now confirm who is in attendance at this meeting, both in the chamber and remotely, for the benefit of all participants and those watching the live stream online. In the chamber, I'm joined by a number of councillors, and please raise your hand while I identify you by name. Councillor Derek Adams, Councillor Rose Bowler, Councillor David Dixon, Councillor Mary Dooley, Councillor Steve Fritchley, Councillor Ray Heffer, Councillor Chris Kane, Councillor Duncan McGregor, Councillor Sandra Peake, Councillor Liz Smith, and Councillor Deborah Watson. I hope I've not missed anybody. Okay, and Councillor Clive Mosby, and of course myself, I'm Councillor Tom Munro. Also in the chamber is, and I will invite the officers now, so we've got Officer to my right, Grant Galloway, Officer Karen Hanson, my apologies, and Officer Lee Hickin. And in addition, we've got Officer Chris Fredlington. I hope I've not missed anybody. Oh, and Officer Teresa Fletcher, the Finance Officer, and Officer Sarah Kay, Planning Manager. And hopefully I've not missed anybody. Right, Nikki, over to you. I'll ask you now, please, to confirm who has joined us remotely.
Thank you, Chair. Joining us remotely are councillors Alan Bailey, Jane Bryson, Dexter Bullock, Nick Clark, Paul Cooper, Maxine Dixon, David Downs, Natalie Hoy, Andrew Josbury, Tom Kirkham, Peter Roberts, Dan Salt, Janet Tate, and Jen Wilson. Also joining us, Chair, we have two public speakers today, Tony Trafford and Sarah Bister. The Monitoring Officer and Deputy Monitoring Officer are also joining remotely, and two heads of service, Steve Brunt and Pam Brown, also members of the governance team and the ICT team and comms team who are supporting this meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Nikki. Okay, we'll move on, if we may, then to item 1 on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. And I have already received apologies from Councillor Tracy Cannon, Councillor Yvonne Parkin, Councillor Graham Parkin, and Councillor Patricia Hayes. Are there any other apologies, please, Nikki?
Thank you,
Patricia
Chair.
Clough. Sorry, Patricia Clough, my apologies. Any other apologies?
Councillor Turner has also sent her apologies in, and Councillor Anne Clark.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, members, before we continue with this agenda, I would like to mark the recent death of His Royal Highness Prince Philip. It was with great sadness that we learnt of the passing of His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, last week. He was an outstanding public servant of the country. Our deepest sympathies are with all members of the royal family at the loss of a dearly loved husband, father, and grandfather. We will now, please, members, hold a minute's silence to remember the Duke of Edinburgh, who died on Friday, aged 99. Thank you, members. Thank you very much, everybody. If we can move on now, please, to item 2 on the agenda, which is declarations of interest. Members who have interest should have declared them to the governance manager in advance of the meeting. However, I will ask again, can any members who have any interest to declare in any items on the agenda, please raise their hand if they have anything to declare. Thank you. We'll move on then, if we may, please, to Chair's announcements. And I wish to report the following. Following information from Councillor Alan Bailey, I spoke with Councillor Mosby, member for Blackwell, about the heroism of a mother from Blackwell who, on the way to taking her son to school, now about 3 or 4 weeks ago, entered a burning bungalow and rescued a disabled pensioner from certain death. On behalf of the council and all members, I wrote a personal letter of praise and congratulations to the woman, and in particular, commended her for her actions. That's all I have to report this morning. Move on then, please, if we may, to item 4, which is last minutes of the last meeting. Can we please approve the minutes of the council meeting and the extraordinary meeting that were held on the 3rd of March as true and accurate records? I will propose that from the chair. May I have a seconder, please?
Councillor McGregor, second.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, we will now, if we can, please move to a vote, and I'm going to take a vote in the chamber first by show of hands. All those in favour, please indicate. So that's unanimous in the chair. Nikki, over to you to conduct the vote of those joining us remotely, please.
So members joining us remotely, you should have the poll in front of you asking you whether or not you would vote for, against, or abstain to approve the minutes of council and extraordinary council held on the 3rd of March. Just a few more minutes, members. Okay, I'll stop the voting there and share that with you. Or that would be unanimous on the remote vote, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Nikki. In that case, if we may, I will now move on to item 5, which is questions from the public. And this morning we have 2 questions from members of the public. So first of all, I'd like to welcome both Tony Trafford and Sarah Bista to the meeting, who are joining us remotely. and so they can ask their questions. Hopefully they've both now got their cameras on. Yes, I can see them both. So first of all, the first one is Tony Trafford, and that's to ask a question to the Deputy Leader of the Council. Welcome, Tony, and over to you to ask your questions.
Thank you, Chair. In a recent planning committee meeting, Councillor McGregor said trees. This council is on record as wanting to plant trees everywhere. This was regarding an applicant's site that was being considered for development. I'd like to ask, is the council committed to the preservation and planting of healthy trees throughout the district?
Thank you very much indeed for the question, Mr. Trafford. I'll now invite Councillor Duncan McGregor to respond.
Thank you, Tony, for your question. Our local plan policy, SC10, says, in order to help retain local distinctiveness, trees, woodland, and hedgerows will be protected from damaged and retained unless it can be demonstrated that removal is necessary and appropriate mitigation can be achieved. We take this commitment seriously and apply this policy rigorously to all development proposals that are likely to affect trees, woodland and hedgerows anywhere in the district. The council has also just secured funding from the Woodland Trust to promote a new community woodland project and help the council reach its ambition of planting 1 million new trees to protect the community, 1 million new trees across the district. Therefore, there should be no doubt that the council is committed to the preservation and planting of healthy trees throughout the district. The council cares about trees and exciting work with the Woodland Trust on developing a series of community woodlands in the district demonstrates this. We have very recently secured a £270,000 cash boost from the Woodland Country to be awarded this, in part due to our enthusiasm for and commitment to caring for trees. This funding will see in the region of 27,500 trees being planted on land south of Cresswell on the former colliery site, land that can provide a flagship environmental resource for the village with a community woodland at its heart. With work starting later this year, the council also intends to see at least one tree planting project in each parish of the district, and discussions are ongoing with the parishes to achieve this over the coming years. You may have seen this or you may not regard this particular press release that was sent out, Tony, and they will demonstrate the point that I've just made. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor McGregor. Tony, you have the right to ask a supplementary question. Do you have a supplementary question to ask?
I do, Chair. I very much welcome the statement that Councillor McGregor has made about planting trees, and also the reference to preservation of trees. In the light of that, I wanted to ask whether the council would support the Glatwell Parish Council's bid to maintain the asset of community value, which is Park Avenue Wood, and help preserve the 13 mature and magnificent beech trees there and the wildlife that they in turn support. This is an important community asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McGregor.
Yes, I'm aware of the planning application that is referred to. That planning application, I'll remind you, has been approved for development. But I draw you back to the attention that I already mentioned. Unless it can be demonstrated that removal is necessary and appropriate mitigation can be achieved. Regarding a planning application where trees are involved, the planning committee takes into account the trees that could be affected, whether they be healthy or otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on now to a second question this morning, which is from Sarah Bister. So Sarah Bister has a question again to the Deputy Leader. Sarah, welcome to the meeting. Over to you to ask your question, please. You're still muted, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I was just finding my mouse. Thank you for the opportunity. The question I have is, I'd like to refer to the members of my question and the answer given of the Council in September 2020, which I have included for your reference. Please can the Deputy Leader detail the planning training that members have to undergo prior to considering applications such as this? Are refreshers provided to reflect changes in the laws and any local plan changes, and any reasons why planning committee members may not always take qualified officers' advice?
Thank you. Over to you, Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Sarah, for your question. Although it is not mandatory, members do receive planning training from officers before they join the planning committee, including training on the decision-making process in a planning context. The importance of the local plan as the starting point for any decision, committee procedures and protocol, and the responsibilities a member takes on when they join the planning committee. In addition, officers are often provide members with updates on important changes to the planning system and refresher training on various technical planning matters, including design standards, Section 106 legal agreement, and the recently adopted local plan. We are also in the process of planning our training program for members for the next civic year. In terms of decision making, the planning committee mostly deals with planning applications that are contentious because the development proposals give rise to conflicting or competing interests. Decisions on these applications are often finely balanced, and it is important these decisions are taken in a transparent and accountable way by elected members in public rather than behind closed doors. However, members are obliged to avoid favouring any party interested in the application or predetermining an application before it is considered fully at planning committee, which also means members are entitled to take a different view on a development proposal or the weight they give to different aspects of the proposals compared to their colleagues, or the points made in representations on an application. Equally, members are entitled to take a different view from the advice offered by officers verbally in the meeting itself. Officers' recommendations in a committee report or deviate from the local plan, for example, providing they can give justified planning reasons based on material planning considerations. In these cases, members of the planning committee take on the role of the decision maker, and the final decision is taken on a vote after considering all the relevant arguments for and against a particular development proposal, with due regard to relevant guidance and any appropriate advice offered by officers. Although not everyone may agree with the decisions made by the planning committee, this process ensures that any decision taken by members is not only made through a fully transparent and democratic process, but is also made on proper planning grounds. For these reasons, members may take a different view from officers at planning committee, but they are fully qualified to do so. I'll just give you some statistics as well. Number of current members on the planning committee who have attended training on planning. All current members of planning committee, 16, have undertaken training either in September 2020 or one of the sessions held in the second half of 2019. Members who have been invited to attend planning training who are not members of the current planning committee all councillors were invited to attend a training session held on the 15th of October 2019. Our records show that 8 councillors who are not currently members of the planning committee attended some form of planning training during 2019-2020. Do we have a policy, stroke advice, advising members to attend planning training? The Councillor Code of Conduct sets out training that councillors should undertake. This includes that training should be undertaken prior to sitting on planning committee. I hope that all members of this council takes note of that particular point that I've referred to there. I would add that there is a planning committee training for planning committee members scheduled for June 2021. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor McGregor. Sarah, you have the right to a supplementary question. Do you have a supplementary question, please?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Does the training include does the training include that site visits should be attended so you get a better picture of the site to assess it for suitability as opposed to a windfall? I see that the deputy leader didn't attend the site visit, so I wondered how he had knowledge of Park Avenue that overruled the officer's decisions.
Regarding site visits, all members are entitled to visit site meetings. It's not a compulsory there. Site visits are basically to give the concept of the geographical outset of where that planning application is, for example, going to build a house or whatever. But there are such things, you know, as maps that the members can take advantage of, and they can use IT now to be able to draw down onto any sites in the district if they wish to. A lot of members that don't necessarily have visit the site meeting actually may live in that area or know that area themselves anyway. So the site meetings are important in terms of people to familiarize themselves with any site. But at the end of the day, during the planning committee process, every advantage in terms of giving the member as much knowledge as possible regarding the application is afforded to them to make the decision.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. That concludes the public question time. We thank you for joining us remotely today. Our facilitator will now help you leave the meeting, but you can continue to watch and follow the meeting on the live YouTube streaming. Thank you. If you'd like to let me know when you're ready, Nikki, please.
Chair, both the public speakers have left the meeting.
Thank you very much indeed, Nikki. So without further delay, we'll move on to item 6, which is questions from members. I can confirm that we have one question submitted under Procedure Rule 9. This is a question from Councillor Peter Roberts to Councillor Sandra Peake. I now invite Councillor Roberts to put his question.
Morning, yes. In paragraph 513 of the report on Bolsover Home Funding to Council on 22nd of July 2020, it states that there is a risk to right to buy applying to new properties built. It also states that the cost floor ceiling will result in these properties being protected for 15 years. However, officers maintain that this protection is only for 3 years. Can Councillor Peake explain the discrepancies?
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Sandra Peake, portfolio holder for housing.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Roberts, for putting the question and some clarification which is needed. As you know, anyone who's been in council property or housing association cannot have the right to buy until for 3 years. After that 3 years, everyone has the right to buy, whether it's new build or old build or whatever. The 15-year rule is that if a property is sold within that 15 years, let's say the house cost 120 to build and say after 5 years it had gone up to 140, and tenants had accrued that discount, they would only get that discount up to the price of the property, the 120, plus any maintenance of that building. So that's where that 15 rule comes in, to protect the council. And we also, it's about finance as well. We get rent income as well. And if you look on the right to buy information on gov.uk, it does state that the council cannot sell the property for any less than it costs to build and maintain for the first 15 years. And that's where the 15 years comes in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Peake. You have the right to ask a supplementary question, Councillor Roberts, but it has to be a question. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Roberts?
No, I haven't. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you very much indeed. Quite sure that a housing officer would have been able to answer that question just as well. That concludes today's questions. So we move on then, please, to item 7, which is motions. And there are no motions that have been submitted this morning. Right. We're now going to move on to item 8, which is the Bolsover prospectus. And it gives me great pleasure to invite the leader of the council, Councillor Steve Fritchley, to present this item. Councillor Fritchley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and good morning, everyone. It's unusual for me to get this far without speaking, so there you go. You've all had a copy of this Vision Bolsover. It's a draft copy, I need to add, Vision Bolsover. You've all had a chance to look at it. I mean, the main intention of this is to demonstrate to people outside, it's not for your benefit, this is for people outside at local authority that are looking at Bolsover to see whether it's worth investing in, to see what things we get up to, and so on. And it'll be a continually evolving document. And if you turn to the back page, there's a mug shot of me just for demonstration. Well, it'll be a pocket where every element of this report, this prospectus, can be expanded upon depending on the target audience. So I think, you know, it's time that we do demonstrate. I mean, we've had Professor Steve Fothergill earlier telling us where, you know, Bolsover fits in this thing. And it's always a constant battle trying to get recognised in the rest of the country. And, you know, this is one way of doing it. We tend to not boast about what we do, or not even sort of try and convince anybody that we, you know, we are a good authority, we are an authority into the 21st century. And if you look at the next item on the agenda, the growth strategy, you'll see where elements of that will fit in to the pockets at the back of this when necessary to expand upon it. I believe, colleagues, that this is the way forward. I think, and I know a reporter at the BBC is interested in this. The LEP are interested in this. We've got a meeting on Friday with the representatives from LEPS and from Parliament and so on, you know, to discuss various aspects of Bolsover's future. But as I say, it's a draft document. I think it's worthy of production. I don't know whether you like the title Vision Bolsover. I pinched it off Vision Derbyshire, but where the difference is, this is about projects and not structures. So I'd appreciate any comments on this, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Chair. It also says on the cover, a 21st century local authority. Really important, colleagues, because we've got to look forward to the future. There was a mining industry devastated, and therefore, and the result of that can be seen throughout the whole of the Bolsover district. And on the second page, it says to become a dynamic, self-sufficient and flexible council that delivers excellent services whilst adapting to local aspirations and acting as the economic and environmental driver for Bolsover district council. Colleagues, we have to look forward. It encompasses within this document the whole area of the council working and where we are, and we can always improve. So it is important, as the leader has said, any comments will be taken on board, that we might want to assist a further development of our vision. But Vision Bolsover is a good title. It's certainly better than the one that was confronted with Vision Derbyshire. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor McGregor. Councillor Sandra Peake.
Thank you, Chair. Just to agree with what Councillor McGregor said, I think it's a brilliant title because it is the vision of Bolsover and it's the vision of this authority. And it shows you what we've done, what we're doing, and what we intend to do in the future. So I think it's an excellent document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
As to show, Chairman, how things have moved forward, Karen Hansen will perhaps want to talk about the what you call it program, the enforcement team. Oh yeah. Sorry, Chair.
Are you happy just to let Karen Hansen speak first? Okay, Karen, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, so the council, just to set a bit of context really, the council approved the adoption of the council ambition in January 2020, which replaced the previous corporate plan and brought about a brand new approach to delivering priorities, particularly focusing on having a flexible and adaptable plan, which is fluid, regularly updated and allowing creativity in the flow of new ideas. So in January 2020, we also said that we would have regular updates to council, so this being the first one of those to keep the ambition fresh and high on the agenda for the council. So the ambition has agreed to deliver high quality council services, to allow the constant transformation to achieve value for money. It talks about income generation through the creation of new ideas, through the development directorate. Talks about the supporting of businesses to provide jobs and have a more business-focused mindset, to deliver high-quality tourist attractions and to enhance and build on partnership and collaborative working, to provide a high-quality environment, clean streets, quality services, including waste, ground maintenance, environmental health and planning services. The prospectus in front of you provides more detail and showcases the work that's already been undertaken and the plans in place to bring about the realisation of this vision. There's an awful lot in the prospectus in front of you. I have got some notes to go through in various areas, but I think it's probably speaks for itself. I know the leader particularly wants me to talk about the enforcement team. And that's really about our new approach to bring a combined and joined up enforcement approach across the council. So what we're currently doing is working with the community safety team, the antisocial behaviour officers, the CAN rangers. There's also some work there around planning, housing and environmental health enforcement, litter, fly tipping, dog fouling, all of those kinds of things. And the idea through the ambition is to bring all of that together for a combined piece of work, a combined team working specifically with partners, particularly the police, our own legal team and some of our own resources, corporate resources teams to ensure that we get the team right first time. We're able to provide the right solutions to the right places with a right first time approach. So in summary, unless the leader would like me to go into any more detail, the prospectus really provides an up-to-date view, a walkthrough of the council's ambition, trying to bring it to life really with pictures and text to enable us to be able to see exactly what's being done and what's planned to be done in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Karen. Councillor Dooley, do you want to add?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, when I read this, I went into detail, but not enough detail. So I had a word with the leader and said, I need more detail to the parts that I ticked out. And the leader said, yes, in the back, there is going to be pockets where the more information that we're given, that we're doing, will go in the back. So I thanked him for that, but I don't agree with him today. This is for the benefit of all of us, not just for certain areas, not for MPs or wherever it's going to go. I think it's for all of the members that's interested in this council to take on board and just idea what we are doing, because we are a good council. We'll be a great council when this is achieved. I seriously think that, but it's for all of us, not just for certain members elsewhere. Members that's interested in this council should take note of it, and I applaud it.
Thank you, Councillor Dooley. Councillor Liz Smith.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to say that I'm fully in support of this document. This is just the kind of tool that we need so that when we're going out there, we're trying to find partners, we're trying to get money, whether it be LEP, whether it be D2N2 or whoever it is we're talking to, we fully spell out what we're about, what we've achieved and what we're going to achieve. So I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor David Dixon.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to commend this document. I think it really does truly reflect this council's ambitions. Could I also just ask a question to Karen? The enforcement team, is this, does this come under the remit of any particular councillor in terms of portfolio holder?
What's that, leader? Okay, so currently enforcement services are across several different service areas. So we've got the street scene service, we have antisocial behaviour and community safety, planning, housing, etc. So what we're looking at doing is pulling all of that together, and I believe that the leader will probably be looking at whether or not that deserves its own portfolio in its own right at some point in the future. At the moment, it's currently dealt with by individual portfolios.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any councillors on joining us remotely who want to ask any questions? Yes, Councillor Natalie Hoy. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I think it's an absolutely excellent document, and I'm not against growth. I think it's very important in the levelling up, which is very needed in our area. My only concerns is infrastructure and the Treble Bob roundabout. And how this is going to impact on our communities. Yes, growth is important, but so is the well-being of our communities. So that's the only comments I would like to send back really to the leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Hoy. I can't see anybody else wishing to come in there, or the only, as there's nobody else in the chamber wishes to speak, I would just like, from the position of chairman of this authority, to offer my support for this document. I sat and read it from cover to cover and was mightily impressed by the thrust of the document and the direction in which it is trying to move this council forward. And I would also heartily recommend the document to one and all. And having said that, unless the leader wants to say anything again, I am now privileged from the chair to move that we note the contents and accept the contents of the document. I move.
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed.
So now that that's been moved and seconded, Chairman, I appreciate comments that colleagues have made and some criticisms as well. And also, I think, I mean, it's not completely my document. A lot of people have been involved in this, especially Scott. I think I drove Scott crackers. He's been coming round to office 3 or 4 times a day, and I send him back again. And he's gone and done what he needed to do with forbearance and patience and what have you. So it's not very often Scott gets a mention in here, but
take a vote in the chamber first. All those in favour, please show. Yes, that's unanimous in the chamber. Nikki, could I ask you to carry out a poll, members joining us remotely? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The poll is live currently for members to vote for, against or abstain. Thank you, Chair. That's the end. I'll just share that with you, Chair. There are 11 votes for with 2 abstentions, none against.
Thank you very much indeed. So that's carried by a substantial majority. If we may now move on, please, to item 9 on the agenda, which is growth strategy. Okay, can I now invite the portfolio holder for economic development, Councillor Liz Smith, to present the report. Councillor Liz Smith.
Thank you very much, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek adoption of the draft growth strategy and the accompanying action plan. And at risk of repeating ourselves, because you'll have heard this before, the ambition is to become a dynamic, self-sufficient and flexible council that delivers excellent services whilst adapting to local aspirations and acting as the economic and environmental driver for Bolsover District. This document is a living, breathing, working document. We want to be able to be agile enough to respond to market conditions. And so you will see that this is a two-part document. You have the draft policy, and then of course you have the plan at the back, which is the actual projects that we're currently working on. And I would move that at 6.1, 1, 2, and 3, we accept the recommendations. But first, I just wanted to point out that there is a little oversight on page 26. It says that the station in Selston has been converted into a restaurant. It hasn't. The restaurant and pub have always been there, and there is no station. All right, there's just an oversight on that page. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much indeed. So before I take a seconder, are there first of all, are there any questions from any members in the chamber? Right, are there any questions from any members joining us remotely? Right, well, you've heard that Councillor Smith has moved the recommendations. Does that receive a seconder? Councillor Chris Kane has seconded it. Thank you. You got there first. So we'll take a vote in the chamber. All those in favour, please indicate. That's unanimous in the chamber. Nikki, could you please put that to the vote? Thank you.
Thank you, members. You'll see on your screens the poll with the recommendations summarised. And that's all votes in, and I'm just showing that results on your screen with 11 for, 0 against and 2 abstentions.
Thank you very much indeed. That's been carried by a substantial majority. Okay, so we'll move on then, if we may please, to item 10, which is the joint whistleblowing policy. And I'm now going to invite the head of corporate governance and the monitoring officer to present the report, Sarah Sternberg. Sarah, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. As I'm sure you all know, whistleblowing, which is explained in the report, is where an employee raises concerns about the wrongdoing in the council. The most important thing for the council in this is to foster a climate of openness and transparency so that employees feel that they can bring these matters to our attention without being victimised, harassed, or suffering reprisals. This is why the policy comes to you for approval and for endorsement. Each year, the council needs to review its policy and the council's arrangements for whistleblowing. This year it has been reviewed and we're not proposing any changes. We're proposing exactly the same policy as we had last year. I am also reporting to you that there have been no instances of whistleblowing reported to me in the last year. Those are in fact the 2 recommendations. Happy to try and answer any questions if there are any. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah, for your report. Are there any members who have any questions, first of all? No, I don't see any questions. I'm going to then, in that case, invite Councillor Duncan McGregor, Deputy Leader, to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move, Councillor Duncan McGregor would like to move the recommendations outlined on page 45, 3.1.
Does that receive a seconder? Yes, it's been seconded by Councillor Ray Heffer. Thank you, Councillor Heffer. We'll now take a vote in the chamber. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous in the chamber. Nikki, please.
Thank you, Chair. The remote vote has commenced.
I can't abstain on this. Can't abstain on the policy about whistleblowing.
Thank you, Chair. That has completed the vote and it's unanimous.
Thank you. That's unanimous. Right, we'll move on then to the next item on the agenda, which is exclusion of the public. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the exclusion of the public. The public part of the meeting has now come to an end and the live stream will be stopped momentarily. The next few items of business in the private session contain information which is not in the public interest to disclose. But before we have a vote on the exclusion of the public, I'd just like to say goodbye and thank you to the public for watching our meeting online. Have a fine rest of the day and please stay safe and stay healthy. I will now move from the chair the exclusion of the public as set out in the agenda. Does that receive a seconder, please? Seconded by the leader. All those in favour in the chair, in the chamber, please indicate. Thank you, that's unanimous. Nikki, thank you. Well, there won't be abstentions, they won't want to be excluding. Don't want everybody there.
Thank you, Chair. That poll has concluded. There is 1 vote against, 12 for, 0 abstentions.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Well, right, we'll move on then, if we may, please, to item 12, which is curbside recycling.